What's the happy haps, cappy caps? There are two characteristic traits that keep most people stuck or at least prevent them from moving forward. These two traits are pain tolerance and emotional intelligence. So I'm going to go over each of these, and then at the end of each section, I'll give some tips on how I've personally overcome it and hoping that maybe it can help you out. So the first being pain tolerance. So people lack an ability to endure a certain amount of pain. So in the gym, these are the people that don't ever grow muscle. They're the people that continue to have the same physique year after year after year after they claim they've been, quote, doing everything that they've tried. And, usually it's because people just don't take sets close enough to failure. And this can also be taken into an actual life perspective. So people's personal lives, whether that's financial, relationship wise, whatever. These people, and I was one of them, maybe it's you lack an ability to handle a certain amount of stress because stress is a type of pain. And instead, we escape into this hedonistic lifestyle that we now have that's just constantly pumping, content out in order to hack our dopamine system so that we just pay attention to social media for literally years on end. And, we hop over to OnlyFans to get, to grab our attention. So with, how our culture is now set up, we don't have the same pains that we did back, years ago, to where now, everything is available to us. And the tricky thing about pain tolerance is pain is a relative thing. That's why some people can live a really shitty life and then not do anything about it because the pain of actually doing something about it is greater than the pain of them staying where they are. And so this makes sense because our biology is wired that way. We evolved to conserve energy, not expend on it because, way back in the day, we had to preserve as much energy as possible because we didn't know where our next food was going to be. Half the time we didn't even know whenever we were going to have sex again. So we evolved in a way where preserving that energy for us was top priority, top of mind. Now, we don't live that way anymore. So we have to find a way to increase our pain tolerance so that we can ultimately live the fulfilling life that we want to. And we have to look at pain or suffering as a challenge, or as Nietzsche put it, a power to be harnessed. And if you can learn to harness this pain, I can't promise that you're going to have this incredible life and that you're going to have one of the world's best physiques and you're going to be a billionaire. But what I can promise from my experience is that you are going to be put in a much better place than you were prior. And the thing about pain is an indicator of progress. New problems present new opportunities for us because these problems show us there is something that needs to be fixed. That is also how our brains are wired. We need to solve problems. And when we don't solve problems or don't try to solve burning problems in our life, that's when our lives kind of spiral slowly into chaos. That's why a lot of times people, they can be fine for a couple years, but then all of a sudden, they have a midlife crisis because they haven't dealt with those things that they said they wanted to do. And then they wake up years down the road after just instant gratification after instant gratification, not being where they want to be. And without those pains or problems, the human race would not have advanced to the point that it has now. With pain and problems, we force ourselves to look for new solutions, which ultimately upgrades ourselves. But it's not comfortable. And that's, I think, the trick that people run into is they just don't have a very high level of pain tolerance and they don't have an ability to push through that. But the good news is pain tolerance is something you can build over time. However, there is a sweet spot. Just like you can't go into the gym and squat 700 pounds on day one because you'll literally you'll maybe be put in a wheelchair. You'll just hurt yourself. If you do too much of something right out the gate, you will burn out. You will not continue to move on. And if you're anything like me, you're that type of person where everything in your mind is just do or die all the time. And you don't have another off switch because for you, it's wasting time if you're not going all out. You can't do 20 minutes every day and just stick to that because it's not enough, because you're not ever going to get there if you do that. When in reality, if you think about it, if you would have done that thing that maybe you've been putting off for 20 to 30 minutes a day for the last year, you would probably be substantially further ahead than you would if you didn't do it than what you're doing right now, right? So it's important to understand that just because you're doing a little bit, it's better than not doing any of it. And finding these pain thresholds for you is highly personal. Not everybody's going to have the same level. The same way that, in the gym, somebody might have more pain tolerance to take a set to absolute failure, or on the football field, or in sports, or even like focusing at work, like running lines of code, whatever your prerogative is. There's different ways to go about it, but these were the two strategies that I used both in my personal life as well as in my fitness journey. So first being, time-based, which is when you're doing something and, you do the same thing every day. This could just be in your job. And, let's say for me, I'm in sales, so I'll just use sales calls. If I'm schedule something out where I'm going to do an hour of sales calls every day, when I feel like I'm done, I do 5 more minutes. And what's really cool about this is that over time, you start to build confidence in your ability to push further than what you otherwise could have before. And this works because whenever it comes to confidence, your brain essentially needs a stack of undeniable proof, quote Alex Hormozi, to know that you can do it. And a lot of times with confidence and building up pain tolerance, it's just telling your brain, hey, we've been here before. I can do this, so this really isn't that big of an issue. And that pain will start to subside because all you're doing is reaffirming to your brain like, hey, we've done this. And that is the main thing that's needed in order to push through for certain things. So if you increase and you just do 5 extra minutes, 10 extra minutes, whatever that threshold is that you can do that. And then do it again the next day and keep doing it. And every single time you feel like stopping, just do 5 more minutes of that thing. And what you'll find a lot of times is once you get through that initial little internal struggle that you're going through, you'll be able to do more than just that 5 or 10 minutes that you said. Normally you can actually push a little longer. And your goal is once you hit a point where, you have pushed, even if it is only the 5 minutes, you stop there and you just do it again the next day and you keep pushing yourself. And over time, I freaking promise, if you do this, your pain tolerance for whatever that thing is will go up. Now the second is, I call it reps based, but basically if you have a goal of a specific amount of things that you need to do, so in the gym, if it's reps and you're not very good at going to failure, when you think you need to stop, just do 1 more. For me in sales calls, when I think I'm done and I'm just exhausted and can't do it anymore, I do 1 more sales calls. A lot of times it turns into 5 or 10, but the point is same thing as the time-based stuff. Just do 1 more. And over time, you'll be able to do 2 more and then maybe 3 more. And then all of a sudden, your baseline is now up here at 10 as opposed to maybe before it was at 5. So the goal is to build up that tolerance over time because really what you're looking for is your brain just to kick in and be like, all right, yep, we can do this. This is easy money. Because the brain does seek that comfort and it seeks homeostasis. So when you want to stay balanced, your brain doesn't want to go past that point. So you have to force it just a little bit so it slightly skews that, your new standard essentially. And that is what setting new standards are for yourself. So time or reps, try that out. I would love to hear how it goes if you try it for a week and see kind of how everything's going for you. But the second trait that's super important that not as many people have that you think is emotional intelligence. A lack of emotional intelligence can cause a metric fuck ton of problems. So all of our decisions that we make ultimately come down to our emotions. When we don't want to go to the gym, why don't we go? Because we don't feel like it. And that feeling is an emotion. And so if you think about a lot of the worst decisions that you've made in your life, whether you have cheated on a partner or you've impulsively bought something and had to take out $5,000 of credit card debt, I'm speaking from experience here. Anything like that, they were all really bad emotional decisions. And these are usually, when people say think things through, this is that part because our emotions a lot of times cloud our judgment because they don't line up with how we think the world should be. When our emotions are super high and we don't take a step back and analyze and give those emotions space, that is when we make the really bad decisions. So if you don't have emotional intelligence, you're going to have difficulty understanding your emotions, which leads to impulsive decisions, emotional outbursts, a lack of an ability to regulate your stress and anxiety. We don't have the strongest relationships because we can't empathize and we can't understand social cues and we can't resolve conflict with people effectively because we do not have an ability to be able to name our emotions, but also possibly think of what the emotions could be in the other person. But most importantly, by not having a solid foundation of emotional intelligence, it makes it really difficult to maintain motivation and continue driving towards goals because you can't manage the uncertainty that is going to manifest itself in any endeavor that's worth chasing. So I always like to use dieting as an example because from my personal experience, this was a big one. But a lot of people, they cave on their diets for, that night out, junk food, whatever, because it's just this one time. And I remember I would do this would happen nonstop all the time. And the first successful diet that I did, I had a coach. So accountability is huge in that piece. But second, I remember I would start to get hungry. And I would sit there and just sit with the hunger and really feel it. And so I reframed it as, okay, this feeling of hunger is literally body fat burning. Like that is what is happening right now. So I reframe the feeling into a different thought, meaning, okay, this is working. So I just need to not do the thing. However, I've noticed my mind is really on top of food right now. It's really on this craving that I want so bad. And so instead, what I ended up doing is I just sat with it. I let it sit. And usually after 10 to 15 minutes, the craving kind of goes away. Sometimes I would drink water to maybe just kind of put something in my stomach. So it was fine. But after giving some space, you can make a better decision. And then after that time frame, I really sat, I was like, okay, do I really want that thing right now? Or do I just need to eat something else and then see? And then I would eat something else that was healthier, maybe that had less calories, that maybe would fill me up more. And lo and behold, usually, it kind of goes away on its own. And I think that same principle of taking space can be applied to anywhere else, with finances. If you're thinking about impulsively buying something, take a step back. You know what you want to do, but what should you do and what are your ultimate long-term goals? And thinking, how does this play into the type of person that I want to be in the future? Because when you lack emotional intelligence, you lack a relationship with yourself. Your emotions are a look into your inner world. They are the associations that you make with the physical feelings and the circumstances that are happening in your world. So normally what happens is, something in our external environment happens. Your brain has already decided what's going to happen before you're even conscious of it because it is constantly trying to pick up patterns. So it takes all these other scenarios from your past and basically puzzle pieces them together until it comes up with a potential solution as to how you should feel about said thing that's going on in your life right now. And so sometimes what you need to do is take a step back and just listen, see what your mind is saying, and then have a new thought. Associate something else with that physical feeling because all emotions are our physical sensations. Where we get into trouble is whenever our mind tells us what it means. It's the meaning that we are assigning to that physical feeling that is causing you all the problems. And I think it's super important to understand this because in the future, with how AI is going, IQ is becoming less and less relevant of a measure of success. And I believe, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure this is backed up now by science, that IQ is not the same indicator of success as we thought it was. However, EQ, how you work with people, how you understand others, how you relate to others, is going to be a much better predictor of your success, as well as how good you're able to manage your emotions. And I can tell you firsthand, once I really started to figure out how my emotions were working, because I'm still not perfect at it, I'm just a hell of a lot better than I was years ago. Everything in my life has gotten better, at least my resolve. And that's, I think, the most important thing is this goes back to the pain tolerance. If you can do this, you will have more resolve and you'll have a higher ability to resist pain and to be able to push through really painful situations. Like, we all know that the super smart guy from high school or whatever that was just kind of an ass because they thought they were better than everybody else. I don't think that's going to be relevant anymore, because a lot of those people, I keep tabs on them still. They're still kind of the same person, and they're really not any better off than they were in high school. So how can you develop more emotional intelligence? Well, for starters, I recommend reading How Emotions Are Made by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. Book changed my life. I will recommend that book till the day I die, or until there's some other kind of science that completely disproves her theory. But either way, amazing book. So now, the things that I did. First, when you are having an emotional reaction, you have to take a step back and just feel the physical feeling. If it's anxiety, a lot of times it's in your gut. For me, it's right at my sternum, a little bit in my throat. I get a little bit shaky, and my mind is going haywire. But first, you have to just feel the physical feeling. Just feel the physical feeling. Don't associate anything else. Don't pass judgment on it. Don't do anything. Just feel it. Only focus on the feeling. Then what you're going to do is you're going to just take note of the thoughts that are going on in your head when that physical feeling is going. And you're not going to judge them. You just have to listen to them, let them pass. And then step 3 is you're then going to reframe how you would prefer those thoughts to be. And I think one of the most powerful things that I did in terms of like, oh, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not as successful as I thought I was going to be, or whatever, just add comma, yet. If you add comma, yet, that implies that it is still going to happen. And what this does, at least for me, is it really helped put my mind at ease so that I could better handle the situations that were going on right now, and to constantly reaffirm myself, like, this isn't permanent, and this might only last today, and I'll probably be fine tomorrow, but I will eventually get to where I want to go, and I will feel what I want to feel. However, it is super important. No emotions are bad emotions. All of them have their use cases, and they've all evolved in such a way to serve certain purposes. But super important to understand that you just need to feel the physical feeling, listen to what your mind is saying, and then tell your mind what you want it to do. Now, the hard part is sticking to this long term. It's super simple to do, but it can be difficult to consistently do, especially if you don't have a certain level of self-awareness. But I promise, if you just do this for 6 months, you will watch your stress and anxiety go down. It does not mean it's going to be over. It does not mean you're never going to experience it. But what it does mean is you are better going to be able to handle all of those things and the circumstances that you ideally don't want to happen. So, with that being said, increase your pain tolerance, increase your emotional intelligence. Let me know if you have any other questions in the comments, or comment if you disagree with me. For all I care, I like hearing other points of view. Or if you have any other, comments to add to this, I would also love it. But in the meantime, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.